Howdy, partners. I'm trying out my Halloween outfit. I'm going to be a cowboy. I'm having a Cowboys and Angels party at my house for my birthday on Friday night. I'm going to be a cowboy. See what you think of that, right? So how did I decide to have a Cowboy and Angel party? I don't know. We just decided. But, this week we're going to talk about a couple of things that have happened as a result of a post that I made. So I have been wanting to talk about a particular topic. I'm going to look at my phone and look at the post that I made. So on Sunday night, I posted, how do you choose, how do you decide if you're going to be a Democrat, if you're going to be a Republican, if you're an independent? Like, how do you decide that, right? How do people do that? So I'm thinking, I went back and thought about for myself, like, how did I decide what I am? I'm not going to really say what I am, but probably going to be pretty obvious. But so I'm going to go back to when I was a child. So I remember when I was a little kid and when I was a little youngster, my father, that was back in the 70s. And I remember my mom and dad were talking about Jimmy Carter. And that, Jimmy Carter is the guy to vote for and all that. And, and we're voting for him because we're Democrats and we're Mexicans and Mexicans are Democrats. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I thought I was a Democrat, right? So that was like my team. And I thought about that this week, about my team, the team that I picked. And how did I decide that was going to be my team? And then I kind of went back and thought about school, so how did I pick the team? I was an Aztec in high school, right? That's what we were called, the Montgomery Aztecs. So how did that come about? Well, my parents decided to move to a certain part of town. They bought a house. There was an elementary school we went to, and then we went to the junior high school, and then we ended up in high school. That was the name of the team. The high school was the Aztecs, Montgomery Aztecs. So now I'm an Aztec, right? And that all has to do with what Maslow calls is like love and belonging, like that we're a part of a tribe, that we want to be parts of a tribe. So often we pick the part of the tribe as a result of maybe it's just how it works out. It's just coincidence that we're on a certain team and then do we really pick that team? Or like for instance, in high school, I was an Aztec. I just happened to show up on that team. So did I really pick it? Well, I don't know. I kind of go back and I think about my high school. Don't get me wrong, I had an awesome high school. I had a lot of great friends. But what I wanted to do now at the age of 56, which is my birthday on Saturday, I'll be 56. Happy birthday to me. As a matter of fact, my buddy on the show tonight, his birthday's today. But I think about, like, if I had to pick the high school I wanted to go to, would that have been the high school? Probably not, given what I wanted to accomplish in my life at this point, right? But as a kid, as a 16-year-old, 17, 18-year-old, pretty much that was the high school in the neighborhood. And that's the one I went to. So when I think about, and as I ask friends this question about, like, how do we decide, what you're going to be, Democrat, Republican, Independent, the different political, the different political ideologies you can subscribe to, did you really pick it? Did you pick that ideology, or was it part of how you were raised? Is it, did you stop and say, hey, I'm going to be that. So how did I pick to be a conservative? So I just say I'm conservative. So I'm going to say I'm going to let you know what happened. So I was 19, 20 years old, and I started in the real estate business. I started making money. And then I looked at my taxes. And I was like, man, I don't want to spend a lot of money in taxes. So I started to ask different people, like, so how do you spend less money in taxes, And then as I started to study that, I started to learn that, I started to see that was kind of that I was asking to be conservative. Like, I wanted to conserve my money. And so from that point on, I became what I would call a conservative, not because I go to church, because I'm not really a churchgoer, or, all these other ideologies that they have for conservatives that they say in the media, but I subscribe to very, very few of those. If anything, I'm probably very fiscally conservative, but very liberal when it comes to social issues, right? So, but if I'm a conservative, that puts me in a box, right? And then I get related to particularly because I'm in that box, right? So it's up to me to be clear of why I pick what I pick. And as a result of that, like especially today on social media, if you say you're, one or the other, I mean, you really are opening yourself up for a bombardment of criticism, right? I mean, is our environment that we're in right now really, is it that nice? I'd say it's more whether, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you say you're this or that, you're probably going to get bombarded by people. So that's one part of what I want to talk. Actually, that's not what I want to talk about tonight at all. But what I want to talk about is how we decided things for ourselves, whether it's our political view, whether it's our personal view to how we're going to live our life, whether it's decisions we make of our careers and all those things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring three amazing friends on. Two, I would say, are probably two of my dearest friends in the world, Kandu Moore, who when I I'm going to share with you a little bit about Kandu, is when I was separated from Yvette this year, I basically I needed a place to stay, and Kandu was the person who, put his arms out and I would say really saved me. And as I was going through what I was going through, he was there for me, and he's always been there for me. And I just really want to thank you publicly, Kandu, for that. Let me bring everybody on. So Kandu, I really want to thank you publicly for that. You really, what you've done for me has really saved my life, and in so many different ways.
Not a problem.
Wiman, who is somebody that I met when I was probably 20 years old, maybe 21 years old. It's just a really amazing friend. It's somebody that we go back and we really like we work out our thoughts, and he's like my brother. So it's an amazing gift to have him as a friend. And then Brenda, who I adore, who I love, is just a good friend that we went to the University of Santa Monica together. And I remember when she told her story about her father and her mother publicly that first time. And so that is something that has stuck with me. And I've just always wanted to be connected with Brenda. And so I've been fortunate to do that. So guys, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
it's exciting. So we're going to talk about what you just, how you decide stuff. That's really the whole conversation. And we can go back and talk political if you want to. I don't really want to be political in the conversation, but maybe if you wanted to talk about how you decided your political view, what was based on, and just kind of not go too much further than that. But why don't we take a second, and Kandu, I'll have you kind of tell everybody about yourself, and then we'll have Wiman introduce himself, tell him, and then we'll finish with Brenda. So Kandu, tell us a little about yourself, please.
Well, I'm Kandu Moore, and I am a entertainer / life coach / Polynesian pimp. No, I'm just playing. Big sexy. Hey, I'm just a regular old guy trying to make moves in the world make better for myself and better for other people. That's all.
I love it. And you have a show that you do. You have a regular show on YouTube and on Facebook as well, right?
I do. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We have my show from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we bring on different people, but we bring up excellent, amazing topics every week. And we kind of get in your head and try to give you a different way to think. And I want to know how you think. And that's kind of what we do. And Martine, real fast, before I go any further, I want to let you know, as far as you moving in with me, Yvette paid me to let you move in, and I do appreciate her. So that's kind of what happened on that side. So I was an easier transaction. She had my Zelle account. It was real simple, man. It didn't go too far.
That's awesome. I was wondering about that. That sounds great. That's awesome.
Everybody seemed to be fine with it at the time.
Hey, man, thank you. Then I need to thank you, man.
That's so funny.
I love you, buddy. I love you, buddy.
Got it. Thank you. How about you, Wiman? What's up? Tell us about you, bro.
Well, I just got off a soccer field with a bunch of screaming 10 and 11-year-olds, and I was trying to walk away early enough to be here, and they just said, no, you're not going anywhere. We're going to sing you happy birthday, and we got some presents for you. And then I got 10 cards from children and a box of donuts, which is probably the worst thing to give me because I'll probably eat them all. But I've been involved in soccer for a long time. At this point, my love is more about the human interaction and the development of another human being. And I'm at a point in my life where I can probably fall in love with any of the kids that I work with. And if they're out there consistently trying to be somebody. And besides that, I play music right now because of the current economic climate. I'm also working for a construction company as the vice president of production, which is something I really never thought I would probably be doing, so.
Awesome.
I'd say, really what my life is about bringing the people together in great environments and producing excellence and all-star teamwork wherever I go. Me a good way to summarize and have a good time while we're doing it.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to have a good time. Brenda.
Hi.
Thank you.
How are you?
Hey, good. You look gorgeous. Look at your hair and everything. You changed it. You colored it, right?
My hair for you. For the chip.
Well, there you go. I love it when girls say that.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of things I'm really passionate about. And Martine and I, we met in our master's in spiritual psychology 20 years ago. Oh, my God. And I have a passion to help teach about forgiveness because of my story, which I'll say just really in one sentence. It's just about how, these things happen in our lives that change us, direct us, put us on purpose. And that's, after the initial fall, kind of the hero's journey, my father shot and killed my mother and then married her sister. And then I found my way to the master's in spiritual psychology a couple of years later, where I dove into deeply healing myself. And then when I finally did and was able to forgive my dad, I started learning about, well, how did I do that? Why did I lose 6 years to depression? And so also as an actress at the time, I was moved after a lot of no, I can't do it, just guided inwardly to put my story on stage. And so I've been performing my one-woman show all over the world. Now it's lockdown, so I'm not doing that. So I teach forgiveness. I teach how to heal from your story, how to share your story for performers and also entrepreneurs. I shift helping people be on video, be real, tell their story, connect with people, and feel and look good and confident. That's me in a nutshell.
And you've helped me during this COVID. That's why I'm wearing a gray shirt.
Exactly. One of my programs on video because I thought, actors, and I was a personal stylist for how to do this. Why don't I help entrepreneurs that learn these skills?
Yeah. Cool. So the whole tonight we're talking about how do people decide, and I kind of threw it out there how do you decide if you're going to be a Republican, a Democrat, and that was just really kind of almost to see how people reacted. And this is the funny thing, guys. I'll tell you, is that so I started my show pretty regularly in March, right in the middle of the end of March, and I think I've missed one Tuesday, and I've done it ever since then, and then. Every Saturday or Sunday, I post a question and I get somewhere between 100 to 200 responses. People will respond. Wow. This time I got 4 people that liked it. One of them is my producer, Armando, right? He's one of them that liked it. And 3 other people that did a like, and not a single person commented.
Yeah. That's
I'm curious, what do you make of that?
What was the question that you asked on the post?
I said, how did you pick being a Democrat, Republican, or independent? That was the first one I picked.
I'm going to tell you why.
I think that's a hot topic. I think, I think that most people didn't pick. And that's a question that's a little bit like hitting people over the head. Mm-hmm. Why are you here today? And, I think most of us are so caught up trying to survive and caught up in the day-to-day activities of that, especially in the current climate. It's a very reactionary climate. It's not at all a consciously thought out, planned out, methodically programmed day. It is for some people, but really the majority of people, I find, including myself at times, we're not really much different in our reaction to survival and crisis. We're not much different than the animal kingdom. That's my experience.
Yeah. But if your question is why didn't people respond to the post?
Yeah, I'm real curious about like what your thoughts are about that.
I think people not responding to the post probably has to do with how volatile has become just for you to speak your mind, for you to take some kind of a presence. So I think a lot of people just decide not to take any, because we have family members not talking to one another, friends not talking to each other. People are drawing the line in the sand behind your political beliefs. And so I think that not answering the question decides, I just don't want that confrontation. I don't want that conflict. Let's just move on. I'll just let it be what it is, you know?
Yeah. And I think, someone invited me to be on a show that was talking about, our triggers around this.
Yeah.
And the initial reaction was like, no, I'm actually really good right now. I don't want to open that up. And so I feel like that's also the thing. It's like, you're going to open something up and then there might be people on there that say other stuff. And if you've gotten to any place where you have done some inner work, you're like, let me just stay calm. I don't want to go in there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need to tip the boat. Yeah. Yeah. I did one on racism, and I was kind of a little concerned about that one. And as a matter of fact, Kandu had encouraged me to do that. And I don't know how many weeks I said, I'm going to do it. You're going to jump on my show. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so what happened? No, I didn't do it. I decided not to do it, And remember Kandu? Like a bunch of times, right?
Yeah, you were going to do it for a while. But that, you know what, Martine, I love your topics. But at the same time, we have people that are, I'm going to say some are just sensitive, but then we have people that are overly sensitive, you know? And a lot of people don't want, like I said, they don't want conflict, and they don't want to draw lines in the sand with their friends and have to decide that, you know what, I can't be cool with this person because of their belief. We're talking about Democrat and Republican, and it's funny because I never decided one. I never decided independent, Democrat, Republican. I think what you do is you try to listen, and then you vote for what works for you. And if ain't nobody talking about nothing, ain't nobody doing nothing, then it's kind of like, then you're torn. But in the current climate where you have so much drama, it's almost like, I just want to vote for the less dramatic person, the person that brings the less amount of drama. I'm serious. Because you have people on both sides. I mean, you can't say that you have one set of beliefs, because if you say that you're a Republican, are you in that box? If you're a Democrat, are you in that box? So if we're not boxing ourselves in and we're open, and I think that that's what's happening in the political world. You have people who you have really Republicans who know that some of the Democratic stuff that's on the floor to be voted for should pass.
Yeah.
But they won't vote for it because it's not the one that they put through, and it's not the supporting doesn't have their name attached to it. So they won't let it through. So then it's like, are we doing it for a party, or are we doing it for the USA?
Yeah. Clearly we're not doing it for people.
That. Yeah, both sides are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
What else you were starting to say something, Brenda? I cut you off.
No, I was saying that, but when I think about like why I choose my party, or why I, how that developed.
I think you just froze.
She froze on us.
That's right. Well, thank God she's got pretty eyes.
She's acting like she's froze. Remember, she's an actress. So
that's right. She's doing the mannequin. Play the mannequin music.
She's doing the
mannequin. Armando, play the mannequin music.
I heard something pretty interesting, Martine, yesterday. If you don't mind, I'll throw that in there. This person said, we're supposed to pledge our allegiance to the flag. It's not to a party. We're supposed to pledge our allegiance to the flag. And I think we lose sight of that. It's like, I'm sticking with this party just because my whole family stuck with this party. I'm not going with this party because my family went with this party. And at the end of the day, it's what's best for the USA.
Yeah.
What's going to make us a better place to live, a better place for our kids to come up. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing to me.
And I find that when it comes to, tax season, we all become very conservative when it comes to, but when it comes to social issues, right? There's so many social issues. I find that almost everybody agrees that, socially, we definitely need to improve this country.
Yeah. And I think that the problem with most of the people who are in politics, that are higher up in politics, they can't really touch on, let's say, some of the social injustice things because they don't have a whole lot of connection to it. And then once they choose not to, a lot of them, because that's a rabbit hole. Once you start to go down that rabbit hole, it's never ending.
Yeah.
Because even me being an African American, I've had people say, hey, you voiced your opinion about this. Why aren't you saying something about this? As if I have to address all issues that have to do with our people or whatever. And it's a rabbit hole. It's never ending. And I think even like what Michael Jordan did by saying, I'm just not involved in it at all, and stepped away, he was judged for that.
Yeah.
He was ridiculed for that. And then now he's come out and he's taken a stance and stuff. But some people just don't want the conflict, man. And they just say, I just won't touch on that. I'll stay away from it.
So in a sense that it seems to me, and I don't know anything about what's happening, but just from the outside, just based on the 30 seconds that you talked about Michael Jordan, he takes a stand. This is what I stand for. And then there becomes some degree of ridicule or something. Mm-hmm. And then, the title is How Do People Decide? So then you decide for, like Wiman says, for our survival, for what's our best interest. We then decide to go this route. And that's how it's really self-preservation.
That's it. It's always selfish at the end of the day. At some point, it's all selfish. It's like, how does this work out for me? And even if I'm a person who, like Wiman was talking about, coaching kids, how does this work out for me coaching these kids? Because if it doesn't work out for me coaching these kids, then why would I go that route? So it still ends up being what's best for me. So how do you get away from being selfish in it?
I don't know that you do, and I don't know that you should, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brenda, go ahead.
You know how I'm back. Hi.
Welcome.
You know how you were talking about, Martine, how, you were looking at the financial aspect of choosing a certain party or something like that. I feel like for me, it's maybe incorrect and there's generalizations, but I feel like my heart leads me into like, I want people who have less than I have to be able, I want people to be taken care of. I don't know, maybe it's selfish because of the feeling that I have, but I want the programs like that to help people. I would rather that than, warheads and stuff like that.
Absolutely. 100%. So let me respond to that. The whole notion of selfish as though it's something negative. The way I look at selfish is that I'm going to look after myself. When the little air mask drop in the plane, right? I need to put one on myself first. And then I can help others. Mm-hmm. And so we all have like something we stand for. And if what you stand for is a social justice issue, then that's great. What I do is the yin of that yang. It's the other side of that. So if what I'm doing is I'm managing money and then what you need is money for that, then yes, those can support each other. Right.
Right.
I think it's when we start to make another part of that, that yin and yang, that we make that wrong. It's two sides of a coin. And when we say, listen, heads is a bad, the head side is really bad. So, we got to stick with the tails. And it's like, well, it really is two sides.
Yeah. It's a combination of people. There's so much againstness instead of real,
I love that.
We're all one. So, why hurt each other?
Againstness. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was
againstness.
And then how do you become like what Wiman does is a selfless act, right? And that's where I find my pleasure. And so does Brenda. When she wants to see other people grow, she wants to help other people heal. Mm-hmm. We're being selfless at that point. I get up and I do my show. And if anybody's ever listened to my show and you haven't listened to it, please check it out. It's all about how I can help you. Today, I went and installed audio systems in 2 different churches so that they can have their audio streaming up so it can reach their parishioners and stuff. And I just happened to be gazing through the internet and they had poor systems. And I says, you know what? The way everybody takes in information now, the audio has to be good. Mm-hmm. And then the visual, but the audio has to be good. So I don't charge anything for doing this for pastors or for churches, because I want them to be able to reach their parishioners so that they can get what they need out of the service, out of the message. But it's about getting to that selfless point. And if we could just get our political sides to say, when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to children, when it comes to poverty in these areas, we need to be selfless. We can't have a party in this part.
Yes,
when it comes to education, we don't need a party to be involved in this. We need to all make the right decision. And then, let's try to go from that direction, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't know that that's possible. I don't think it's possible to not think of yourself. Even my desire to have a better society is about my having a more peaceful life. And so if I give to somebody and I know that I'm in some way that makes me feel good, that's still itself. I'm still thinking about myself. I mean, I'm not, but I am. And I don't think that's bad. I think if you're not taking care of yourself, because I used to think very, like I would say I was brought up Roman Catholic, and my thinking was,
you're going in and out.
Which is really the dumbest thing you could say. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I don't know.
So we're talking about you were raised Roman Catholic, and then you were taught that to think of yourself is you shouldn't do that.
You just don't matter. Like you as an individual don't matter. But as a philosophy, like as being interested in philosophy and coaching and human psychology and human interaction, I found that to be the dumbest thing in the world to say, because at the end of the day, a great society is built on great individuals coming together. It's not built on one person not mattering, and then everybody else doesn't matter.
Okay, so being raised, so that you're raised Catholic, I was also raised Catholic, and then you then decide something else.
I
that's
decided,
the thing.
Well, no, I mean, but I think I'm pretty logical about most things. Like I look at it like really what I
you keep going in and out. I don't know if you're in a bad area. So what I'm hearing Wiman talking about is he was raised Catholic, and there were certain, you got certain rules about being a Catholic, right? Or any religion really. And then you then make a decision based on something that, some insight that you see or some awareness that you have. And then you may go, well, this doesn't line up with me. Like I said, like for me, I was 19, 20 years old. I just wanted to keep more of my money. I was making a lot of money as a real estate agent, and I was like, oh my God, the government's getting a lot of money. And then really that's all it was. It was nothing more than that. It really was nothing more than that. And so the pursuit for the last, 20 something years, 26 years, 36 years has been a pursuit of like, I want to keep as much of my money as I can. It doesn't mean that I'm not socially concerned. It doesn't mean that, but it is perceived that way by some people, right? Wouldn't it be?
So let me ask you a question though, Martine. If everybody was to take that position, then where will we get the funding for education, the funding for the police departments, the funding for all those things? If everybody was to take that position that I want to keep as much of my money as possible, then what happens is we don't have the necessary funds in order to have those programs available. So then somebody's going to suffer. A lot of bodies are going to suffer.
Well, I think that's why we're different. I think that's what the beauty is of being different. And let's just take this color of our skin as that's a difference, right? Because we're different skin colors, we're different skin tones. That we have a different culture, we have different, we have a different DNA, and that DNA actually has us operate somewhat differently, and that's beautiful. I mean, that's a beautiful thing when we could put it together and celebrate. But when what we're doing is we're disconnecting and we're isolating, we're making each other wrong, then I think there's a problem. So what I mean by that, in contrast to what you're saying, is that you need both sides of the coin. You need the people that are saying, hey, we need to do this with education, because you're not thinking about that. All you're thinking about is how to conserve money, and we need to do these things. And then I think open-minded people would go, yeah, you're right. I'm really glad you think of those things, because I don't.
But do we need both sides?
I think you need more than both sides. I think you need a lot of different sides. I think you need a lot of different sides. You need somebody that sticks up for, I think you need somebody that sticks up for, whatever they want to stick up for. I had a friend it was a couple of years ago when the whole thing about the about the kids in the cages, right? You remember the whole thing about the border and stuff. And I went to her house and she was asking me, would I go and protest with her? And I said, no, I don't protest. I don't do that. She's really upset with me. And she's like, wow. And she's totally offended by it. And she said, how come? I said, because I'm the guy that supports people. I'm this guy that works with people to have them, to be the greatest versions of themselves. And that's what I do. Like, that's my lane. I coach people, I support people. That's not what I do. And she's really an activist and a very powerful activist. And so that's what she does. She doesn't do what I do. So what I do is support her in being a great protester, being somebody that can, that's going to be strong. Like that's how I look at it. Now, if we were the same thing, then I would just be protesting with her and I wouldn't be who I am. And I wouldn't be being true to myself. Just like Brenda said, she has a different view. She's a different side of the coin.
Yeah, Martine, I would like to can I bring up our meeting that we had?
Yeah, absolutely. That was funny. That was awesome.
I think I'm scared.
Really, this is like...
You got to tell the whole story, though.
Well, but I can't remember.
You were really upset. Remember, you were really upset, and I sent you a text. Are you okay?
Really, really, really upset about the state of this world. And specific things, and a conversation I had with someone in my life who thought very differently than me, not knowing that Martine also thought very differently.
Yeah.
And I was really upset. I was just like, I think the fires were happening too. It was like on top of all the racial injustice. It was just, and COVID, I was just like, and so he's like, oh, can I, do you want to meet, And so here I was like, thinking he thought like me, like a shoulder to cry on, maybe, or like someone. Yeah, and
that's so funny.
Surprise!
Instead, he tells me the opposite. He believes opposite of like everything I was saying. And so what happened for me, which was so great, is right before this, though, I was literally praying to God, Spirit, like, help me not be so judgmental.
That's right.
Help me, emotional, passionate. And what happens, it gets delivered to me in a friend that I know for 20 years. And I'm like, well, he's not crazy, because I'm not saying I'm proud, but I have my judgments, right? And he's not, uncaring. And so it made me, having the witness there, I was like, okay, let me listen to what he has to say. And it was probably the first time I had a conversation with someone who disagreed with me that I could hear him, because I was watching my emotions and I was watching how I get heated, and I see how that's what happens to people. But I also had my witness there because Martine was important enough to me and I knew him. It's very easy to be angry and upset when you're judging other people. You don't know them. But because I knew him, I was like, okay. And we disagreed on several things. And I would notice myself getting upset, noticing him being as cool as you could be. And I was like, wow, I could just actually have a conversation about this and agree to disagree, but not in like, you're wrong, I'm right. It was really healing for me.
I think the love won out right there, bro. I literally think the love won out, because that's how I kind of felt. Like you were living with me. I didn't know you were a Republican or conservative. I had no idea. And then we ended up talking about some stuff, and I realized that you were on the other side of the lane, and I'm not necessarily on one side of the lane or the other. Yeah. I'm on the side of right, whatever right is. And that's always going to be questionable because it's what's right to me, right?
Yes,
what's right. Exactly. So it was interesting because I almost was like, am I supposed to be mad at him that he doesn't agree with me? But I love you so much that it didn't matter. And it kills me to see families are torn. Families are not talking to each other. Dinners aren't the same. They're not doing what they're doing because their love isn't winning out. Because at the end of the day, love should win out.
There need to be right is winning out.
Yeah.
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 For me, I'll tell you, go ahead, go to Wiman. Because Wiman and I had the same conversation.
Yeah, but I mean,
he said the love didn't win out though.
No, I don't think love, love wins when you think it's going to make your life better. Because I've walked away from some relationships that I love profoundly because I didn't think it was going to make my life better. So I don't personally find that as a defining element. I do find that it's a big one. It's a big pillar of living and being alive and being there. But as far as, can I love somebody? And even if we're struggling and making life worse for each other as a result of our love? No, I'm not going to do that. So I used to think that was really important. Like, you don't care about me, you don't love me, you don't believe in me. But it's like, why should somebody if I'm not making their life better in some way?
I love
and
that.
I don't think that, and I don't honestly believe that anybody can convince me that isn't important to every single human being. If you're not like, okay, we're going to get married and we're going to make vows that have been written like 1,000 years ago. But the truth is, it should be like, I'm going to stay with you until you make me, fucking crazy and I can't stand it anymore.
A week and a half.
But see, I'm with you. I'm with Wiman on that. With Wiman on that. But I think the energy of love would make you fight to not take a position against somebody. We'll fight to make you not judge that person that way. We'll fight to make you stay around.
You're talking about
see
people
it
that
differently.
have the skill to do that. That's a
But I'm saying,
to do that. I could see that, but
these families or people that are doing that, they don't have the skill, or not open to people so stick with what they believe instead of listening to the other person. So it is like having the love plus the skills together.
I find, I wrote a book called The Curiosity Theory. And so this whole thing is about curiosity for me. So when I was sitting with you, when I was sitting with Kandu also, I'm very curious about what goes on with you. And so for me, curiosity is how I show respect. It's kind of like a byproduct. Respect and safety and trust is a byproduct out of being curious. And to look at you sit across, we were at that little German restaurant, and just to have a great conversation and just stay in the inquiry, just stay consciously curious. And like, how am I showing up? Like, what's going on with me inside of me? Am I getting triggered? How can I contribute to this conversation? How can I make this a better conversation? And taking a position and making somebody wrong, as often as I've done that in my life, it just never worked out.
Wow, you used to be bad. You used to be real bad.
And I've tried it. I've tried it quite a few times. I really worked at making it, like winning an argument by making somebody wrong. I'm real good at that. It just really doesn't work very often.
It's like, I'm not making you wrong. You just are wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Wiman does know you. He knows you well, dude.
We lived it. We lived it. We lived it. We went through some rough periods there as friends, but I guess, all I can say about it is that, sometimes you don't really know until after the fact what it is. And in retrospect, Martine and I were just working out individual things, and we just happened to be punching on each other in the process. Whoever was there, and it could have been somebody else, I would have been like slugging it out with them verbally,
Yeah.
And, I used to be a little make wrong machine too. And I ultimately, what I've discovered is that if you're in my life, if you're in my surroundings in any capacity, you're the guy that I see regularly at the gas station or the girl at the coffee shop, I need to make you win, because the moment I diminish you, I am now having a diminished human being experience. And so everything can basically be like this spiraling make wrong thing where everybody's wrong, and I get to feel that. I get to feel that loss. And it actually serves me to make everybody right, because then I have an incredible experience of living, and I'm surrounded by the most extraordinary qualities about my fellow man. And that's totally self-serving, but don't tell me people aren't winning on that viewpoint.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think most people aren't conscious, because I was also a making wrong machine.
What is this make wrong thing? This is new to me.
That's right. We'll let you admit it in a few minutes, Kandu.
Yeah, okay.
I'm innocent, grasshopper. I'm innocent.
That is not like me.
It's almost if you're not the one making your point. And as for me, in my experience, as I learn to be more conscious, I can feel the energy. So me being right at the expense of someone else feels bad. That's kind of what Wiman was saying. It's like, you want everyone to win, and with that energy of curiosity is really powerful, because I was able to actually hear what you were saying, that than what my views, and I could hear it without going into like, I gotta cut him off, I gotta tell him why that's wrong. It was just that curiosity kind of lessened that trigger level, and coupled with the fact that I had a very strong intention to let go of my righteousness.
Yeah. And so
I had a really powerful experience somewhere along the way. I practiced Buddhism. I was involved in Morton Earhart Associates and Landmark, and then also involved in Scientology and another program called Nexus, which was very short-lived. It was really about trusting your instincts. And I was in Korea, and I had this really popular band in Seoul. And at one point, the band basically got mad at me, for lack of a better, description. And my piano player kept calling me and just giving me a hard time about different things. And I just finally said, okay, maybe this is over. Maybe I screwed it up, and I just need to walk away from this. And so she would call me up, and I didn't want to hear her berating me or making me wrong for whatever. And I just hung up on her. And then she couldn't get through to me. And so she started calling me from other people's phones until I accidentally picked one up. And I had a moment where I said, if I hang up right now, that's the end of this conversation. But something told me I just need to hear her out. And she said, we should get together and we should talk, and we should just communicate. And I said, okay, I guess so. So I went over to her house, and we had dinner and talked. And actually, it wasn't really, we didn't talk. She talked. But something happened to me in that moment. I let her say whatever she had to say. And I had no issue with it whatsoever. I didn't have any agreement with it. I didn't have any disagreement with it. And I think she went on for like 30, maybe 45 minutes, to be honest with you. I really don't know. But what was most important to me about it was that what I got present to was just her experience of our relationship, independent of my own reasons or thoughts, or whether she was right or wrong, or whether she made it up, or whether she filled in the blanks. And I could just see her experience of our relationship. And when she stopped talking, she said, do you have anything to say? And I said, the only thing that actually wants to come out of my mouth right now is that I'm sorry that I created that experience for you. And she said, really? Is that all? And I said, that's it. I mean, how can I say anything about your experience? That is what your experience of me is. I can take responsibility for participating in that and doing things that might have made you think of other things. Whatever my intentions were, that's your experience. Regardless of what I think, if I start talking right now about my experience, then it's gonna diminish what you're having, and that really being present.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful for me, because I didn't have to agree with her. I just had to get that was her experience. And that has changed every human interaction that I had, not like in theory, but in actual muscle memory on the spot.
So that makes me think of so if we go back to the title, how do people decide? And when you told me that story, I decided something. And I think that we decide things oftentimes because it speaks our truth. It speaks something that maybe we're working toward. Like, I'm working toward that. And when you said that to me, when you talked about that woman, about that story, you've told me that story several times, it made me think about my marriage. It made me think about the experience that I left Yvette with. It's like the experience of our marriage, the experience of what we're left with was not the experience I wanted her to have.
Right.
There's just no way. That was like not even, there's nowhere close to that even being the experience. Like how she's left and how she's still left. And we communicate on text, and she says some very, very vulnerable things, how she's hurt. And it's like, wow, I don't know what to say about any of that.
But
all I know is that's not what, real quick, that's just not what I wanted. But beating myself up about it is not going to work either.
That's true. I mean, and you have to understand, just because she had this experience of me and I was there causing it, I mean, all I have to do is walk in the room and things are getting caused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know what's in somebody's head that I'm going to trigger. Yeah. I could be like the vile Latin guy, or I could be like the most amazing human being on the planet because I remind them of some Latin coach that they had when they were 5. You know, I don't know that. All I know is that I can be responsible for being cause.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And everybody, I mean, Kandu, Kandu is like, he just walks into a room and it's like, it just changes, and the same thing with you and same thing with Brenda. And, I've been told the same thing with me. So, we do have that effect on the room. It's at what point are we going to take responsibility for the potential that can be, the potential that our personality or energy can cause in a room. And, we could say, okay, we're real powerful people. And then somebody can come back and say, well, I'm not as powerful as you. What's the same thing, diminished power or not taking responsibility for your power and acting like I'm not really as powerful as you. That's still going to suck energy, or it's going to change energy.
Yeah. I mean, really, if you think you don't matter, and this is the simplest test on the planet, just go on a regular day in Los Angeles, just go walk on the freeway or just park your car. Don't even like do anything. Just park it there for a few minutes at rush hour. And you'll get to see the impact that you have as one person doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Just doing nothing.
Yeah.
You're going to piss off thousands of people for hours.
It's like park sideways on a freeway, see what happens.
I don't
right?
really matter here. Really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I see.
Yeah.
Well, I know life is how you say it is, my friend, but still.
It took him saying that for me to remember Wiman. I haven't met Wiman before. Martine, you've talked to me about Wiman before.
Yeah.
But
He has an impact.
I love it. He has an impact. I like this guy.
Cinnamon said, I'm feeling very yuck. And what she's referring to is on the curiosity theory. We talk about feelings, and there's different feelings that we have. And if the only feelings that we take responsibility for is yum or yuck, yuck tells us that our needs aren't being met, and yum tells us that our needs are being met. So yum is when things are good, and yuck is when things aren't going, and I found that to be a very, very powerful way to interact with children or men, when like, oh, how are you feeling? You're like, oh, I don't talk about my feelings. Well, how, yum or yuck? You feeling yum or yuck? Well, I'm feeling pretty yuck. All right, good. We know.
So
that's what Cinnamon is referring to.
Yeah, and if she's feeling yuck, then it's like, well, how do we all help each other to not feel yuck? I mean, that's a lot of work is too. How do you watch someone's post or look at someone's post and be like, I feel crappy. I want to act out. This gets watch the news.
What? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're talking about a Facebook
watch
post?
Fox or CNN or any of those guys, right? They're going to act it out.
Man.
Yeah, and feel that yuck, but how do you feel better? How do you move to the, how do you feel to the, what is it, yum and yuck?
Yeah. Well, I think what the people in the news and most people think is how I feel better is to project this energy on you. And that just doesn't work. I mean, I think what it does is it makes us feel relieved, and we think the relief is better.
You mean like if you're repeating what you heard in the news, or?
No, I'd say anything. So I'm just saying, for instance, the news. But let's say, for instance, I'm upset with you, Brenda, and so what I do is I project anger or frustration on you, right? And I'm saying things to you, and I'm calling you names, or I'm doing something like that. I feel better as a relief.
Oh, for the moment.
For a moment, it's a relief, right? But to sustain myself feeling better, it requires me to be self-righteous about it. So now I have to have a position about what I said to you versus.
Right. And that is the contracted feeling. And as I take more responsibility, I feel better, even though it is the opposite. People think, oh, I don't want to take responsibility.
Do you really feel better when you throw up on somebody?
Yeah.
No, I think people do for the moment. I do think people do for the moment.
Well, Brenda, you can rest assured, Brenda, if Martine did that, I'd beat him up personally.
He would. He would.
That's not going to go down. So you ain't going to worry.
That's not going to happen.
That's that audio church compassion thing.
I feel better.
Yeah.
Like an old pattern of like, oh, I'm going to say this and then I'll feel better. Like my own practice is that when I'm feeling triggered like that, rather than go to the person, because I don't think there's anything that comes from that, is to first write out my stuff, like do the freeform writing and be like, I'm so effing angry, blah, 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 blah. But I don't have to do that to a person and put it on them. And, as I teach storytelling, I tell that to my clients too. Like, you don't want to put that else.
Yeah. And then there's the interpretation of somebody, you know, like what Cinnamon did is she just clarified what Yuck is for her. And it was nothing like I was saying. I actually met Cinnamon in a class where I was speaking about the curiosity theory, and Cinnamon's right. So I said, I have stage 4 cancer and I'm always present for so many people that I'm not there for myself. And I'm feeling very, very yucky, depressed, seeing others lose their battle with this disease hurts my soul. So that's her definition of yuck. And that's a pretty
Wow.
deep definition.
That is
yuck,
the ultimate yuck.
Wow.
Right
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
That's the ultimate yuck.
Yeah.
But
And
the fact that
she's a
she's
fighter.
willing to express herself, the fact
Yeah.
that she's willing to express herself, and that's courageous and that's awesome.
Oh.
And then it allows people who have positive spiritual energy like myself to pray for somebody like her.
Absolutely.
And hopefully she'll feel it on her end.
Yeah, it is courageous to share that, and to just, it's the thing of like being okay with the fact that you are feeling down instead of like going to the quick fix. And then when you can get to that place, I know for me, like always raising my vibration, I'll put on some, videos that raise my vibration and stuff like that when I'm in that place. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely need support, and it's good to have, it's good to pull stuff from the inside, but there's energy from the outside, and we can use each other, definitely use each other's support. I think we all need that.
Yeah. And it's so important. The other thing is to fill yourself up first. Yeah. You cannot, I have learned that you cannot be present for everybody else. You have to fill yourself up first, because you're really not any good to them.
Absolutely.
You're getting depleted.
By her posting that means she's deciding to deal and not even have it be a secret, which is huge.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And
That's
she's
huge.
just, yeah. Thank you, Cinnamon. That's very, very, very courageous.
Big time.
So
Cinnamon.
let's wind up. We're gonna probably, if we wind it up, we're gonna be at like 60 minutes, and I like to always try to stay right under 60 minutes. One of the things about curiosity for me, guys, is that I kind of never know where I'm going to end up. And staying curious for me always ends up in a great place. And I trust that how curiosity is going to show up for other people is it's going to be an opportunity for them to see themselves. Rather than me just talk, because I can talk forever, but to have, Kandu, Wiman, and Brenda, and all the other guests that I've had, really makes I think the healing process and the contribution process so powerful. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Very welcome.
Thanks for bringing the wisdom. So why don't we finish up the whole thing was, how do people decide? And let's go the opposite way. Let's start with Brenda, and then we'll go with Kandu, and then we'll finish up with Wiman. And the whole thing tonight was about, how do we decide? And how about if you just kind of give us what your version of, kind of sum up tonight, and we'll go from there.
How do I decide? How do I make my decisions?
Yeah.
My life, I'm pretty in tune with my spiritual center and my breath. And so I often can really decide if I'm on the right track when I take it into prayer, and when I check in with my body. I actually get a really big breath when things are right and in alignment with me, and I get really contracted when they're not. So that's of testing.
So you have like a insight, you have an internal barometer almost.
Yes.
Wow, that's really great. And that's the thing is that we all have different ways of doing it, and we have 4 different ways of doing it. Kandu, how do you decide? How do you know if your decisions are right or wrong for you?
You know what? I never know if they're right or wrong without getting into them. But this is in all honesty, I really allow God to lead my life. I make a bunch of jokes. I act crazy. I say AKA big sexy, street therapist, all these other things. But I am very grounded in my relationship with Christ. And so I kind of take that journey, and I'm cool with wherever it ends up. And that's kind of how I'm going to decide on things. I'm just going to anytime I even have a question, I always pray about it, man. And that's not trying to be too deep, too spiritual. I just know that I'm not smart enough to figure it out on my own. So I'd rather go with somebody who I believe is bigger, stronger, and smarter, and has created all this for me. So that's kind of how I decide, man. And I decide for the right, whatever that is.
That's awesome.
Man.
That is beautiful. Thank you. And I'm going to ask you to take us out with a prayer as we go, if you don't mind, Kandu, okay? Because
Yes,
I love, not right now, but in a minute, if you don't mind doing
you.
that. And then, Wiman, can you put your video on and take us out and tell us what how you decide things?
Sure.
Get that little, let's see my buddy. It's
Well,
my birthday
it went
buddy.
out for a while.
Did
so,
it? There you go. Happy birthday, man.
At least he's not catfishing. That's a nice thing. He looks just like his picture. You know what I mean?
It's only on the weekends, man. Come on. The way I decide, honestly, is visually. If I have two experiences when it comes to decisions. One, I can see it, and if I can see it, that means it's good and it's going to happen. But if I don't have any certainty, I won't have that. I won't actually see clarity on it. And if I have certainty that it's really a bad thing to do, I always feel it, like it happens in my stomach. And so whenever something's going on in my stomach, I'm picking up on something. And if it's not like I ate something bad, that means that I'm perceiving something is going to happen that I need to get away from, or I need to be ready for, or I need to correct. And those two things have served me well. And they haven't led me astray, to be honest with you. The only time that it really becomes a problem is when I ignore what I'm seeing or feeling.
That's really great. That's amazing.
That's my own process, you know? Yeah. And I will, like, I'll look at somebody and I'll talk to them. I'll hang out with them for a while, maybe a year, maybe a couple months, maybe a couple hours. And if something comes to me, I am never wrong. I mean, I won't say anything until I see that. And then, but I'm just never wrong. It's not something I talk about much openly, and certainly not in public, but and nowadays I look at it and I think, is this going to make my life better? And is it going to make the people around me better? And those are the two determining factors for why I do anything. That's wonderful. You know, and I think it's really important that we take note, if you're watching, is that we have so many different roads to get to what we want, like why we decide the things that we decide. They come from, our learning. The stuff that I decide simply comes from curiosity. I'm just a curious person. And what I learned is that actually helps me more to be curious than it does to be positional or right or righteous about anything. And, my decisions are, I'll tell you, kind of like my decisions, whether they were right or wrong, happen almost after the fact. And I was sharing with somebody the other day that they were asking me, so how do you relate to God? And I say, the way I relate to God is that my life works out a particular way. And I kind of like look at God and I go, are you kidding me, man? Because it just keeps working out. And it's just like this amazing life that I have. And I just kind of go like, really? Like something great just happened. And then something else great just happened. I'm just like, are you kidding me? I just keep being blessed. Yeah. And that's what I have. And I have blessings. And that tells me, I don't know if it tells me I'm right. It just tells me I'm blessed. And I just accept that. And I'd like to do two things as we go out. First off, I'd like to just wish you happy birthday, Wiman.
Yeah, happy birthday, man.
Birthday.
Thank you.
And the second thing is what I'd like to do is I'd like to finish on a prayer. And what I'd like to do is to take a minute and let's say a prayer for Cinnamon, if we can do that.
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another day, Lord. We thank you just for being who you are. Lord, we ask right now that you comfort, you heal, and you continue to bless. Touch Cinnamon in her body, God. Let her know that you are the ultimate healer, God, and that with you, all things are possible, God. We thank you now, Lord, for everyone that listened to the show, Lord. We have hope that they've heard something that will bless them today, tomorrow, and furthermore, and we'll forever give your name the thanks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
That's beautiful.
Amen.
Wow. So I'm gonna go ahead.
Cinnamon.
Yes, Cinnamon. Thank you for your thing. Thank you for your participation. I'm gonna play a song that Wiman and I wrote. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Oh yeah, play it.
Cool.
So
Happy birthday, Martine.
Thank you. My birthday will be Saturday. So
Yes, sir. Happy birthday, Wiman.
Thank you very much. We'll end on that. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. Cinnamon,
Love
God
you,
bless
man.
you.
Be well, brother.
Lisa, Marissa, everybody that's come on the call, Michael Davey, Lord this, Alfredo, all you guys, thank you for hanging out with us and being great. Go out and have a great life and make decisions, make powerful decisions. God bless you guys. Take care.
Yeah.